Okay, so I want to talk about 5.5.
Okay.
We don't have to talk about the guild mount stuff yet if you want to. I don't know what all you got to. So first of all, what did you get to out of the content that's been released?
Well, I got a guild goal, 25 million and 50 million. Like, that was exciting to see, because I think that's also a really good starting point. These vendors, different mounts, and just one each. So I'm hoping that this is a cadence, and I hope they go ridiculous. I hope it just blows people away. That in this time next year, everybody's like, oh,
Remember when they were only 50?
Man, 50 million. What a drop.
75, 100, 125, 150, 175.
I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to make a prediction. As much as people think that we do this for the money, I think we're going to get inundated within the next couple of months with guild sellers, because people came to us, especially as we were getting started, like, will you tell us people about this site I was like, no, like, that's not what we're here to do. No. And so I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to bet that we're going to get 5 emails asking us to tell people about guild selling within the next 5 months. 5 for 5, 1 a month. That's my prediction.
5 months. Okay, let's make it an easier date to remind ourselves of.
Okay, Endwalker, 6 months.
Endwalker launch day.
Okay.
You're taking 5?
Yeah.
So is my choice the under or the over there?
It's up to you. 1 million gil on the line.
Oh, man. I don't know.
I would bet
we'll come back to it at the end of the video. Give me some time to think.
Okay,
Give me some time to think.
Stay tuned to the end of the video, guys. Chris will give us a decision.
Yeah. Give me under or over. That's tough. So what else did you get to today? So
right,
we went to the guild vendors, and neither of us had the money for the mount.
No, and I'm so happy that I
saw them.
People have got the mounts. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, if you guys don't know, Chris he went live early. He did all the spoilery stuff, and then kind of how he structured his. Mine, I went to work early. Like today, it's the things have to get done, and they got done. I was able to do a lot of good work. So I actually started playing, and I streamed a little bit around 11:30, focusing in on the story. Doing that now, we're gonna pause spoilers, so don't worry. We'll give you plenty of warning before we dip into any kind of thing that could be possibly spoiler. So just note that if you're checking out this video and you're kind of like, I haven't gotten to it yet, don't worry. We'll adequately warn you so you can kind of click out. But did the story, did that dungeon, and we did it as a speed run. We went into that dungeon and we just crushed it, dude. Like, it was so much fun. I don't even think I've seen every mechanic that dungeon. Like, there's no way I could put a guide out on that thing, because it was just good times to be had by all. But focus on the story as usual. Now, I'm actually at this moment. I unlocked not Puppet's Bunker, the whole new near raid. Tower of weirdness and
Tower
and
of Final Yorha shenanigans.
Yes, exactly. And also the cloud deck. So I've actually got both of those unlocked. I was just like, I want to get those unlocked. Unfortunately, due to time, I was hoping to have those kind of cleared. So we'll talk about it probably in future videos in terms of like what our overall thoughts are. In terms that I can't sit down and give you.
Please be recording your reactions
of the fights. I was hoping to stream. I can't go live.
They're the best. They're the best iteration of both sets of battle content.
Oh, that's great.
It's the best weapon fight so far.
Yeah.
And it was the best of the near raids. And I say so far on the weapons. It's the end of that. They finished on the strongest note in both.
Or
sets.
Did they? Dun dun dun.
The final quest of the weapon series has a conclusion screen.
Cool. So anyway,
it is over.
I probably what I'll do in that regards is I'll probably save that for my stream tomorrow. Let's just put that there. So, guys, if you haven't seen, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I take over stream at 2 o'clock. We kind of film some our videos. So just kind of, if you haven't been following, top link in the description. What's up, Workforce? Whole, just more relaxed video today. So much excitement. I focused story. I also rearranged my triple triad cards, because we can have the 5-star, the 4-star, 3 stars. And I just, feel so much more powerful. Like, it just feels... Yeah. Really
game
great.
Changer.
It is a game changer, and this has me doing a couple things. So immediately 5.5 has already kind of said, okay, what do I need to do? Brian's gotten everything leveled. Well, I haven't done all the triple triad stuff. I haven't done all the Blue Mage stuff. Blue Mage got a big update with the saving the hotbars. So when it comes down to all of that, like that's going to open up content, I think, for me to kind of challenge. Also, that dungeon, like I said, we crushed it, but it was really exciting. So if I was right now at the moment, it's going to have to take a couple more runs, because right now, Matoya's Relict has been just, I think, the best dungeon that we've seen this entire expansion, in my opinion. But now I'm gonna wonder to weigh this, because there's that one moment, no spoiler, there's that one moment that's not even battle related that just felt epic. It just felt so epic. And the fact that also the dungeon's voiced, I really appreciated that aspect. It kind of gave me the WoW vibes, in which the thing that I would say that WoW actually really impressed me with from a dungeon was just the voice acting. I was like, oh, this is great, because we've seen more of that. And we've been constantly asking, what are we getting when we sacrifice a dungeon? What are we getting when we sacrifice some of these bits of content? And honestly, I really appreciate the quality of this. We'll see how I feel on other playthroughs when it comes down to it. I think the best kind of, like, there's your initial impression, and right now this is tied with Matoya's in an initial impression. Matoya over time got better. Especially every time you get into that third section, it's just beautiful. I'm going to wonder if this is going to have that same thing, if it takes the number 1 slot or not. So dungeon wise, just really impressive. But that's what I've done. Like, it was story focused, took time, and yeah. So like, why don't we jump to you now, and before we kind of start talking spoilers, because I have some serious thoughts about what we experienced
this week. I'll have to get through the crafting stuff. The Easter event will start bright and early tomorrow morning, so I'll get through that as well. That's this week also. So we've got a lot to do. So I think we're probably going to re-record this video a week from now, or 2 weeks from now, whenever you kind of feel like you've done everything in 5.5 that you are going to want to do, whether or not that's everything. I'm going to try to get through the full list because I've got more time. So I think story-wise, keeping it non-spoilery, I think this really set us up well for a part 1. I have a lot more questions. I think it was the strongest dungeon. I think the dungeon, the expert roulette, as we call it, the expert coin flip, is the strongest it's ever been, because I really like both dungeons that are in it. Like, I really do. The Matoya's Relict and the Pagelfan are the two best dungeons of this expansion, and they, in my opinion, and they share a roulette where you can just run those two until you realize that you hate them. So you can do that. I think that I look forward to seeing your response to the weapon fight and the Alliance raid. I think that the battle content this patch was incredibly strong, for the fact that we don't have raids. Like, for the fact that there was not Eden during 0.5, right? Because it's even numbered. This was shockingly, I think of the evens as the stronger battle content. The 0.2, 0.2, 0.4. I think that this was the odds answering the evens. Like, listen up, we're gonna crush this. And the fact that we have more story coming, I'm really excited about. The 50 million on the Gil mount, to loop back on that. Yeah, I think that I wish it'd been higher. I wish 50 had been the cheaper mount, and I wish that the second had been 100. Yeah. I think 50 and 20, 25 and 50, there's too many people with 75 million that'll just go drop both. It would have been really nice to put it at a number where, like, the wealthy friend you had to pick one. Yeah. I think because then for them, there's still no reason to go make Gil. Right. So I think giving everybody a reason to chase Gil, I think, really creates some economic activity.
We need to reach out to the She Hails I Tank crew, because prior to, I think, 5.4, they gave away all of their stuff.
At the beginning of the new year, they gave away 80 million Gil on stream, I believe is the number.
Right. And so, like, we really need to get them back on the podcast.
They just were like spinning a wheel constantly. They just gave it all away because their community, I guess, they talked about Gil making enough that their community had said, well, it's easy for you because you have Gil. And so I think they dropped to like 500,000 or a million or something, just enough to cover like teleports. And they said, fine, I'll prove it. And so I don't know how high they got back up to, And I don't know if, as a result, ironically, they're not able to afford these mounts on day one because they gave all their money away
Yeah.
4 months ago. And maybe it takes longer than that to build that up. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they're back at 80 and they're like, well, yep. Nothing. So I think it's going to do some interesting things. As a patch, this was a lot. The bulk of the story to get the content unlocked, to get the raid, the trial, and the MSQ, just the stuff, that took about 3 hours to do just the MSQ, the story and the side stories, just to get to the 3 unlocks. So I was like, oh, I was kind of disappointed with how long 0.5 is, because yes, I'm blasting through it in a day, but I think about, okay, well, what if at various times in my life I played 1 or 2 hours a week? How many weeks would this have taken me? So every hour that goes by, I'm like, in my head, I'm storing that as another week. And would this have gotten me from 0.5 to 0.55, which is like a 6-week gap? So would this have gotten me over that gap? There was a lot after the battle content today. There was a lot after the battle content. And so I will say this is definitely a meaty patch. I was live for 8.5 hours. I chatted for 30 minutes and I had a 30-minute wait to get in my alliance raid. So that's 7.5 hours of main story and battle content exclusively, running each thing only once. And so I think there is plenty here to get casual players to the next patch. The game is not designed for the people who consume it epic amounts. And the answer for those people that it does try to answer is, in my opinion, in the half patches. That's where we add things like Relic. And we have the new Firmament stuff. So a lot of those systems I've only really put hands on the stuff that I think everybody will get to. So my question is that enough for the people that only get to that stuff? Is that enough for a returning player to have fun as they go through it for the first time, especially if they go through it later than us? And I think the answer is yes. I think 0.5 is a strong patch. And so I would like to, at this point, tell you that on the 5, I'm going to take the over, because I'd rather us not get spammed in our email. So I'm going to take the over on the more than 5 emails offering to sponsor us. Unique emails, not unique offers. So if an offer hits us twice before Endwalker, that counts. So between now and Endwalker, I'm going to take the over that we get more than 5 emails. So on the 6th email, you owe me 1 million gil. That is the second bet we have tied to Endwalker. The first of which is, will we get a Game Pass tie-in? Something unique to Game Pass. So that is the second 1 million gil bet.
Game Pass Xbox.
If one of us loses both of these, we're starting to move.
Well,
a little bit
honestly,
of money
I would be like, I would have been willing to do like a 25 mil, but I don't have 25 mil.
I don't have it.
Yeah, because I just been shopping. I just been like, like Gil, whatever. Like it's just not a thing. I always have been hovered around 5 to 10, and then I just go shop. And, always try to keep 5 to 10 on me at any point in time. But now with the Gil mounts, I'm just like, yes, I am farming that Gil, and I've already just put back into kind of my regular rotation, my strategies of how I make money, because I've just ignored it. The game fed me enough to cover all my expenses.
There's other things to do,
right?
And it doesn't do anything.
But now it's like, just a little bit of extra time, and it's starting to funnel in a couple 100,000. Every time I log in.
The same way parsing gives you a reason to chase the gear treadmill a little bit more. Maybe not
I'm
full
not so
BIS,
worried
but
about
just a little bit more. Because it does get you a higher number.
I'm not so worried about the gear treadmill, because it's actually not about the number on the parse. It's about the Final Fantasy analytics that tell me.
Okay.
So I'm actually the thing I'm chasing on analytics was, did I have 100% uptime on my attacks as best as possible. So I keep trying to push to see if I can't get that further and further green, right? So like, hey, where can I improve? What can I do next time to be even better? Because I think it's all about, in terms of myself, and this isn't me trying to shame anybody for not thinking this way, but I've just been on this kick of, can I be the best version of this character that I can be? Not that I'm gonna have to be number 1 in the world, just the best version that Brian can play. And I like that. That's how I train. That's how I do a lot of things. Same thing for programming. Can I be the best programmer that I can be? And what skills can I learn that I can bring to the job and help make clients happy, because because they're happy, because they got exactly what they needed, and I saved them countless hours of money. So
before I get too far off in the weeds because that's going to open up another topic, and I'm going to want to share. And we're going to be 45 minutes in, and I want to talk about 5.5 today. So let's move into spoiler territory.
Yes,
so
spoilers.
That brief aside. Spoilers. Any of you with headphones, speakers, spoilers.
If you're running to the computer, you are a legend. Don't slip.
So, to any of you doing dishes, hopefully you've had a chance to dry off your hands. Pause the video. And you
Alexa, pause the video. Alexa, pause. All right.
So let's move into spoiler territory here.
Yes.
How did you? So we knew we were going to start off with Alice as the quest giver.
Yes.
We knew the first quest name. We knew where it was going to start in the Rising Stone. So we already had a tendency of thinking where it was going to pick up where we left off.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like right at the beginning, how did you feel about why people are really zombies? What's going on?
So I thought like they were dead and they were resurrecting the dead.
Okay.
Like from the holdover.
Not Sonic Temper Towers.
No. And that
shooting out
changes the fact that these towers are tempering them to a nation, like I guess they're whatever this is, tempering them in that regards to a nation rather than some demigod or some version of a god that these people believe in, and in that nature, right, completely changes our understanding of what tempering is. I
think it doesn't.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think it redefines what a primal is. I think a primal is a manifestation of an idea or of a belief.
Yeah, in physical form.
And so what you're doing instead is you're now saying that nation is that manifestation of that idea or belief.
Yeah, it's that
so
nationalism.
I think it is perfectly in line.
Yeah, it's nationalism.
I think it is saying
in a
nationalism is a religion.
Mm-hmm.
Nationalism can have the very same fervency, the very same belief. So it does not compete with a god. It redefines it as more aligned with what the definition of these godlike beings are. That they are, and it makes me wonder if there could be a manifestation of a Garlemald in some alternate universe, or if that's what we're seeing. And the manifestation is a little less clear. These lunar primals. There's going to be more than one.
And with these lunar primals, the fact that they are subject to the will of, they are also in a way tempered to Garlemald, because they're not tempering. So lunar Ifrit doesn't pop out, and then everybody's tempered to lunar Ifrit. No. Like, that is all still like a part of the Garlemald. And the fact that they're also, and we only saw the lunar Ifrit summon, but we heard in the story that these other towers are also summoning forth these other deities, the lunar versions of these deities. And that in and of itself is insane. One of the things that we talked about, Yoshi P's talked about, is that, I don't know if it's going to happen, but fighting these primals out and in the open world, right? Like, what does that look like? And the reason... and once that concept of tempering maybe has to change, that all of a sudden we can see that, yes, Ifrit has just spawned out in the world and we can go fight him. How insane would that be?
Yeah, it's an interesting parallel with how religions mirror actual nations, because many religions will, outside of when they absorb other religions, have a lot of their own iconography. And their own iconography comes out of historical things within their own belief system, but countries tend to be representations of people who may already have a religion, and oftentimes do. And so countries tend to borrow iconography. So when we look at things like flags, emblems, badges on military uniforms, badges that represent certain bodies of government, they tend to borrow iconography from other things, and that is a weaker version of that iconography than its original form. And so to have these primals be a manifestation of the belief of Garlemald, and it's weaker than when it's actually Bahamut, or it's actually Ifrit, or it's actually Garuda. These lunar versions are this lesser form that is serving this greater, group think. And so it's really interesting to see this form of kind of nationalism addressed within 14. It's nice to get to talk about these things where I don't have to insult a whole group of people by accident in the process, because it's all an imaginary nation. So if I say I don't like Garlemald, I'm not offending anybody. And so I like that 14 tackles this stuff. I'm bummed that our first lunar down that very same thing. I'm bummed because of what it represents, because of what it has a chance to teach us about how this stuff is manifested. I'm bummed that we addressed it in a dungeon, not a trial.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if any of that comes back in future, because we do have the other half of this. We also have all of Endwalker. We also have all of Endwalker, in that regards to kind of get through. So I'm very curious about that, because there's some things like when we'll talk about Nier here in a second, because having yet run the content, I'm just done with it. Like, I'm just ready for this to be done. And I'm hopeful that maybe this turns it around, but we'll come to that in a second.
The content's your payoff. I will tell you that. Having finished
the content's been the payoff.
The content's the payoff. And there is quests after the content. So I'm telling you, bank whatever amount of joy came out of the content, because you're going to need it to carry you through the end if you feel the same way I do.
Cool. On the lunar aspect, though, what's really cool to see, even though we're not physically seeing it, we're being told it, that being that these primals aren't tempering the people who go near them, the towers do, so it's more of a tower thing, but the grain companies are being able to be dispatched to take out these summoned primals, which is something that has been that's one of the reasons why we the Icon Slayer, we the Warrior Light, have been so protected. That's one of the reasons why with Fodolia making a return, and I'm gonna butcher both their names, and then Armistice, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name. I can't.
Arvald or whatever.
Them are having. Well, I believe. Are they both infused with the basically the fake Echo? Ferdola is.
They're both temper resistant.
Yeah, they're both temper resistant. Is Arvald, was he experimented on?
He was a scion.
Right.
So I don't know how he got his gift.
Okay.
You're talking about story skipping, Chris.
Gotcha. I couldn't remember, because I knew
we're not caught up.
Fodolia had it inserted into her. Like the Empire was basically running experiments to basically hey, how can we take this and put this power into our people? And then essentially so I'm not sure with him. Chat, let me know. I'm definitely not the ethist of the channel in that regards, but I was just like, yeah, I know they were both temper resistant, and that was exciting to see them kind of have their journey. The story in and of itself was really impressive. Go ahead. You look like you're.
I think one of the things I've struggled with is the Pixie Beast Tribe, the Fairy Beast Tribe in Elmeg. They got a trial. That feels like plenty of a nod to them. There was quests around that and all that. So for them to get a whole Beast Tribe, they had to have a story spun up, and we spun up the story where we spent a portion of the expansion dealing with these epic, huge ramifications, where we talk about this other version of ourselves. We talk about the distance between the shards. We have giant Heidelin and Zodiac stuff going on. We fight against whole Asian designs, and then we have this entire Beast Tribe where they're like, hey, there's this kid that's not sleeping well, and if you don't deal with it, nobody will. And yes, it's meant to be a little deeper than that. Of course, I'm making light of it. It's a little bit hyperbole there, but relative to the rest of Shadowbringer content, it was such a hard contrast that the scale was so out of alignment that I didn't like it. I was like, you're telling me that if we had died doing any of these epic things, that this relatively minor thing would have just gone on and nobody else could deal with it, that you're just waiting for me, especially because I got to it late. It's like, for months, nobody's even tried to deal with this because time is weird in MMOs. It was really nice to see the grand companies step up and them say, the Scions are the last result. When you get called in, there are other people attempting this, and to see it addressed, and not just one or two, not just, a couple of pixies or adventurers, but there are massive things at play that have gone in, and there are whole stories being told. One of the things I appreciate about The Witcher is that you are viewing a single moment of a single adventure within a world, and you could come back and relive that world on the same time through someone else's eyes and get an entirely different perspective, entirely different events. And sometimes it feels like the Warrior of Light is such a big deal in 14 that the rest of the world is on pause when we're in it. And it's really nice when something takes place that reminds me that's not the case, that there are other things going on. And just because we're not there doesn't mean the entire world is collapsing, because many people are like, well, the great thing about the Warrior of Light is we choose to be the Warrior of Light. I don't think so, because no one else apparently can do this. There's plenty of people that want to. We seem to be the only one that can. So I start to feel a little bit like I'm a god or a primal, and I don't necessarily like that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's I want to talk I guess on the Warrior Light, because I know we're not really going through the story linear in this video, but essentially one of the things that one of the things I thought was a real interesting question that was proposed, and it was something that you've heard me critically stupid stutter you've heard me say this throughout Stormblood. And it was like, where is the Ascian Hydaelyn story? Like, it was like, it had been somewhat themed, and then all of a sudden we kind of go off this thing, and then all of a sudden we get called at the first, and then they start bringing it up. Well, they asked the question, when was the last time we talked to Hydaelyn? Now, we had some interaction with Minfilia, and it was like, holy crap, maybe there's somebody's blocking that communication, or maybe there's something else that's going on. We don't know, and I was so excited to see that question brought up. It was so satisfying a question, because if somebody is separating us from Hydaelyn communicating with us directly, which we haven't had in a long time, which is one of the things that I was talking about Stormblood, it was like, but it kind of almost in a way makes that even better, because I was wondering, and I was like, what's going on here? I was asking those questions in the last expansion. Then the game, if we are blocked or if something else is going on, the game essentially acknowledging that this was a gap. It was purposeful. You know, there was a reason to why there wasn't that beat in that moment in that expansion, which felt kind of like I didn't like that. I was like, okay, yeah, that's great. Like, okay, but what's like, I want to know more about this. So the first Shadowbringers was so much more impactful because we got back, I thought, to the root of the bigger saga that I've been enthralled with, and then this little nod kind of says, yeah, it makes sense. We all have those experiences. Like, why is she quiet? We were thinking, like, maybe I was thinking it's something to deal with the first, but we resolved that. Where's Hydaelyn? Right? That's what I got from that question.
Yeah, it also brought up an interesting question in there that made me wonder. She's the one that's given us the gift of the echo, right? Which is why we can see ground mechanics. It's why we can hear her. It is used as the universal catch-all. If something is not explained, it is the gift of Hydaelyn. She has made everything possible. If you're trying to marry anything to lore and it cannot be explained, it's a gift of the echo. If Hydaelyn were to be gone through some form or other, it doesn't matter how. Mm-hmm. If Hydaelyn were to be either permanently removed from access to us or killed or merged, or if anything were to happen with the rejoining, if 6.0 results in our relationship with Hydaelyn fundamentally changing by whatever means, do we lose the gift?
I hope
is it a gift that is a tie to her, a constant chain, or is it a gift that we received and we now own?
Yeah, I hope we do. Honestly, I would love to see, well, because that sets up 6.0 and Endwalker in such an interesting way that this has been concluded and here's a whole new thing. And then I still maintain, like, based off of just a recent interview talking about how they're working on updating textures and so much more. Mm-hmm. And it's a process that they're continually doing this big work behind the scenes that doesn't have an immediate payoff. So sometimes you kind of feel hungry as a player, like, oh man, you know, and then all of a sudden in 2 years time, we got a world visit and we got data center visit. And then,
data center kissing them. What, 5.58?
5.58, which essentially what we assumed, but Steam dropping an accidental oopsie yesterday, which was exciting to read. So it's like having that kind of moment, like, yeah, that's going to be great. Bringing the community together, bringing these tools, improving the engines themselves, improving the features of the game, and then also having a whole new, I don't know, I'm just excited for Endwalker. I think this saga in and of itself, it should hopefully conclude. But what else? Yeah, go ahead.
Does Alphino? So it seems like Alphino. So it seems like we set up our Sage introduction, right? Because it seems like a serious loss is coming, and that's going to, and being told you're in the way, let the healers do their work, justifies the move to being a Sage.
He's gonna
100% justifies his desire to never feel so helpless.
Yeah.
To say, I couldn't save him, but I can save others. I
Assuming
think there were actually there were whole scenes where they talk about these unspoken heroes who die for us and without them could not defend us. And through that entire monologue, you could have swapped the word hero out for healer and it would have made just as much sense.
Yeah.
So it really set up the tone for why we're getting a Sage. And why, in my mind, I think it would set up a really good Templar vibe as well. Why we would have this defender in the melee DPS role, somebody with a resurrect. But I don't think there wasn't anything there. But that's what for me. It would be this very like hindsight, of course, type moment.
Yoshi P,
because we didn't get to see what Xenos picked up as a
weapon. Yoshi P, the freaking troll, man. Like it's like literally like
shing. It's metal.
Yeah, it's something made of metal.
Something made of metal.
So all you see is axes and everything we have in the game. So
what is it? Every primal weapon in the game, or every relic weapon in the game?
Something. It was just like
it was a lot.
Oh, dude. let's go. And I was hoping they'd
Maybe
show
somebody
it.
can
I was
identify all
hoping
those
they'd
weapons.
show it. So I think we'll see that. I think you're going to see it in the trailer part 2. You'll see what he picks up because they're going to
Just remove the black thing. We heard the shing and the screen was black. All you have to do is show us the video clip.
Yeah,
It
but
can be the exact same thing.
I bet the finished trailer is going to have him wielding whatever this weapon is. And I feel Scythe. I can't, like, it didn't make a hammer. Vroom. It made a, like a metal. Yeah. So I'm definitely in the camp of Scythe for freaking sure. The other things that stood out to me, I really enjoyed the Estinian aspect, finally kind of joining the Scions after many
Makes
attempts.
sense. He's in our trust next time.
We already
so I knew
knew
he was
that.
going to say yes.
I knew he was going to say yes. That kind of, in a way, took a little bit of power from that moment, because it's like he's going to be a part of the trust. Like, was it going to be like no?
I think it gave him an opportunity to focus less on him saying yes and more on him saying why.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming as a realist to contrast with our idealists.
Yeah.
So I think him saying, the world sucks and not everything works out, as a contrasting view to it's going to be fine, gives them a chance for characters to lean into the depth of one note instead of having to represent all the complexities.
Makes sense.
So I think there's an advantage there. Yeah, and it'll be a great place for them to show off new maiming gear.
Mm-hmm.
So,
for sure, exactly.
I mean, Thangred got to be a gunbreaker. So I think that was awesome. By the way, you haven't done Star Wars Warlit stuff. You unlocked the trial.
I've got I'm right. I can queue for any other piece of content. And
so why can't my gunblade look like Gaius's?
I don't know. Maybe a mock station later. That's their pattern.
I want a more substantial gunblade. If somebody knows where I can get that gunblade, let me know. That's what I want, because I have the relic one, and it's like it's like the coolest looking gun, and it's like this big. It's got to be at least 3 times that size.
Yeah. I really also enjoyed, and being that I love dragons, I've kind of saved this bit for last, the Tiamat story, and essentially with the dragons of Mysidia.
I was out there 2 weeks ago doing sightseeing log.
Yeah, it was amazing, because essentially you get a lot into her despair, her love of Bahamut, the whole like regret that she has, the fact that she's semi-tempered, being obviously a powerful being, not fully tempered, but worried that running into Bahamut that she would fully succumb to being tempered to Bahamut, but we didn't know that Lunar Bahamut, they can't temper, but then essentially freeing her, cleaning her of that because of the cure of tempering, and then getting that insight into what happened in Mericidia in the past, where her and Bahamut had their children, and then the land was slowly settled, and then eventually Bahamut became kind of the ruler over the disputes of the land between humankind, and then eventually they turned on him and killed him, and then in her grief, like, that is essentially what kind of led, and then it was just kind of trickled down from there. And
it was a very one-sided version of that story.
Yeah.
So what I would love for 14 to do is stop telling us how things actually happened. And they do this sometimes, but I think it's a really neat opportunity to do it very explicitly, to tell us her side. The people just rose up. They just rose up for no reason. They just couldn't appreciate him. They were too greedy. Okay, let's hear their side of story. Right? Mm-hmm. This dragon that's not even a human is telling us what to do. This oppressive dragon lord. And of course he gets to be king because we can't say anything. We're not basically immortal dragons. And so, like, I would love to hear the other side of Mericidia. I would love to hear the other side of how people came over there, and how, as an American, we were raised being taught manifest destiny. And then as you get older, you learn there was more than one side to history. There was another group of people who may have felt slightly differently about some of that early conquest. And so, like,
what a privileged statement to be like, hundreds of years later and be like, well,
bummer.
What are you gonna do?
Enjoy Oklahoma. So, like, without getting too far off in the weeds on that, like, I think there are two sides to story, and the victor gets to write the one that goes in the history book. Mm-hmm. And so I think it is very interesting, her as the survivor getting to write what she feels. And it was this very, like, it sounded to me very much like Bahamut did nothing wrong.
Well, but we've already heard in ways of the human side of it, the 1,000-Year Dragon Song War, between that. Now that's
our next ultimate.
That's Ishgard and whatnot. But essentially, what I gathered from her telling of the story, what fills in the gaps is the Ascians to me. Now, this isn't like this is what I would call reading between the lines. The subtext behind it is that the Ascians essentially continued to conspire so the dragons and the humans were at war. Because if united, there's no way their plans would have ever succeeded. And so that's what happens. It's driving the factor with Ishgard. That's what, when you say like the humans got mad, you know, it could have been that like like the Ascians are over there whispering to Bahamut, being like, da-da-da-da-da. And then at the same time, they're over whispering to the humans going like, look at this fat dragon. Like, who's going to listen to this guy? So essentially, like I would venture to bet like it was Ascian influence that caused the rift.
I would love to relive those events.
Yeah. Well,
I would love to relive those events.
Kick in echo powers, maybe?
So, I would love to relive those events, is all. Yeah, so that's what that gave me. It gave me a part of a story that I was really intrigued, and I wanted more.
Yeah.
I want to go back and I want to watch that exact same time period from a different perspective with a different level of access. I would love to replay all of history as an Ascian and understand theirs, because we've made them very like, and then they just stirred these two people up. Okay. What else did they try? Like, we saw their plan. There were other plans. Let's go see those. So I think that's in general where I'm feeling with 5.5. I would love to go over kind of the Stars Over Lit stuff with you. I'd love to talk about how you're feeling at Yorha when it's done.
I think that's going to be that could be our video for tomorrow, because I'm going to even talk to Julie tonight and be like, hey, do you mind if I just go stream tonight? Because you know, like, and that way I can knock out the rest of this content, and I can enjoy the battle fights, and I can.
So today, when this goes live, sometime this week we'll sit down and film the rest. I'd love anything you plan on going hands on with. We have 6 weeks for you to go hands on before we talk about 5.5 stuff.
Yes.
Coming out of FanFest.
Absolutely. There are obviously lots to talk about. There's going to be a lot of analysis that we're going to bring to this. If you guys aren't hanging out on stream, we would love it, and we continue to invite you. Stream from 8 to 2 p.m. Central. We'd love it even if you're just over there lurking, racking up those channel points. We've got lots of big plans. In fact, we're just kind of talking today about some of the things that we want to bring to stream, and we do appreciate all y'all's feedback. In fact, actually, one of the things that kind of where we're breaking this video up into a couple different parts, it gives us the opportunity to kind of, I can go consume y'all's comments in the comments below. We can kind of bring themes that the community has, especially as it relates to 5.5. I've already seen chat that says it didn't feel meaty, and like it didn't feel like the story was meaty. And it's like, I get it. Like I've always felt that about the 0.5. And it's the 5.55, which essentially isn't that. I don't feel it's as long as a wait as it has been in the past, where before we would have 5.5 in January and we'd have 5.55 or the 0.555 blah, 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 in March. Like, so we would actually have a longer gap. In this case, it's really 6 weeks. We got the rest of April. And then we got May, and we're already halfway through April. So, and then in May, in a month, we've got FanFest. And then 2 weeks after that, most likely the 25th, we have the release of the second part of this. So there's just going to be, I think, excitement and news to be excited about and talk about throughout this while we grind our gill. I think one of the things that I always love reading in the comments is people really enjoy these videos because they're out just kind of grinding and playing the game, and they're just kind of listening to us kind of be excited and talk about the game. So we appreciate all y'all who've lurked, who've hit subscribe, who've hit liked.
So you farmers, tell us in the comments down below what you're farming.
What you're farming.
I am farming. Insert that there. Let us know what you farmers are farming.
That'd be fantastic. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed the extra time that we put into this, and the first half and then the second half being spoilers. But always, please let us know your feedback. Any and all is always welcome. We love to hear from you. That's going to wrap it up for Work to Game. My name is Brian.
My name is Chris.
Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and we hope to see you soon. But until then,
take care.